Let's go!
This is Dubas's team. It is the best team.
Are you guys disrespecting my fourth line?
No.
I love that fourth line more than my daughter.
Scoring-wise, totally unprecedented. This guy is on fire.
This needs to be fixed or we're not going anywhere.
Do you know what's better than 40 goals a year? 80 goals a year,
Yeah.
which is what he's getting with Mitch Marner.
I think you guys are crazy.
Stop it.
Tim, tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong.
Ryan, you are wrong.
Welcome to the Leafscast with Steven, Ryan, and Tim.
Welcome back to the Leafscast for the preseason.
Throwing back to the old intro.
Preseason pod. Yeah, the old intro. That's an old intro. I do not love this current fourth line more than my daughter, just for the record, but I did love the whatever that was, 2021 fourth line more than my daughter. That sounds bad saying it now, just like it did then. Guys, we're in season 4 and we're big time. That's it. Quite frankly, we're big time, and we have a producer, and it's David Douglas on the Leafscast. Let's go, Dave. Let's go, baby.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's me, your producer, professional podcast producer, David Douglas. I'm so excited to be here. Genuinely, I'm just so excited to just talk Leafs for the next 45 minutes.
All I know is that Steven's been complaining that he hasn't had a brother on this podcast for 4 years now, that he made up a job just so he could get his brother
No.
It's Leafs talk only.
Well, okay. Guy's wearing a Blue Jays sweater, too. Let's get into the business. All right, Dave's here. We're going to have a good time. So we've got some news to cover, just some general Maple Leafs-related news. We got a couple of questions we're going to get into regarding how we're feeling about the Maple Leafs this season, maybe some lines. We got some new segments, some quick hitters, and we'll get out of here. Sound good?
I like it.
Okay,
works
let's
for
get
me.
to business. Maple Leafs wrap up the preseason 4-1. Quick hitter, do you care that they're 4-1? I care. That's cool.
Are they really? It hasn't felt that successful. That's funny.
So-
Maybe I'm just pessimistic.
So, I guess news since the last time that we've potted, which I think has really only been like a week. Couple of key points here. So, Willie has moved from center to the wing. So, something we spent like 15 minutes on the last pod about. Willie, the experiment's done. My understanding was there was an exchange.
Well, hold on. Let's pump the brakes on that, because it's not the experiment's done. At least that's not the messaging that the team is putting out. They're putting out that they're trying him in a hybrid role, that he will be partially playing the wing, partially playing center, depending on circumstance, depending on health of team, and that's the way that they're going. However, when they originally started this crusade of Nylander at center, for what seems like the third year in a row, they told us that it was going to be a long run. We're going to give him a chance. We're going to give him a lot of time here. And it seems very quickly that job description has already changed to now hybrid center. And to be fair, Steven, even though I interrupted you, I wouldn't be surprised if by the time we play our first actual game, it's changed again to just winger, because that seems to be the trajectory that William Nylander's going on here.
It's the
All
spot
right.
he deserves
First
to
off,
be in.
There's two things here. The Leafs played 6 preseason games. They lost the first 2 games.
Wait.
Their record is 4-1-1. The reporter asked Berube after the second game, so is this now time to panic? And Berube says, it's preseason. Come on. And then they win the next 4. Okay. So now
Is it time to panic?
Anyways, that was a
They were working out the kinks.
working out the kinks. On the other hand, I do not care at all about the preseason. I would take being 0-6 if it means the team is healthy going to game 1. October is basically preseason. But the good news is Leafs are mostly healthy. I mean, there's a couple guys that are a little banged up. But I think what we're seeing with Willie at center is more about, let's see what kind of role Holmberg can take. Expand that role a little bit. See how he can perform. Maybe it's even like a little bit more of a show and tell for David Camp. Leafs currently over the cap. Next 48 hours are gonna have some move has to happen. Is it gonna be a trade? Probably. Someone's gonna be heading out the door. Could be David Camp. Could be Timothy Liljegren. Who knows?
Could be Callie Yarncrook.
Could be David.
Wait,
No,
Douglas?
he gets paid league man.
All right.
I wonder, you talk about like October's preseason. Just going back to the Willie thing, I don't want to spend forever on this, but like, it's funny that then the games are almost never less important than the ones in October, and they don't determine that it's worth it to put him in there even for the most unimportant games of the season. So I'll be really curious to see if Berube slots him in. Yeah, that's it. Experiment's over. I don't know that any of us predicted that like it wouldn't even make it to the first game of the season, but it's looking pretty business as usual on the lines. We get into that a little later. Let's talk about Nicky Robb. So Nicky Robb comes out 2-goal performance in the prior preseason game to tonight, and gets the night off tonight because he's made the Maple Leafs.
He's official. I was super excited seeing Nicky Robb in a couple of those highlights of just seeing how quickly he was popping off those shots.
He's
I mean, to give Tim credit, it's you never know what it's the preseason. Like half the games that Nicky Robb was playing in, it was against like all AHL teams. But like, granted, some of the games he was playing in, he was on a team with all AHL teams, and it's kind of a weird. I don't know. It's hard to take anything of substance out of the preseason. However, when you go and score like the only goals that your team scores, like I think he scored 5 goals in a row for our team with no one else scoring anything over a course of like 3 games. It's just like, it's hard to not acknowledge that as this guy's doing something. He's here to play, and maybe it's a chip on his shoulder because of the whole contract stitch and wanting a trade. Maybe he just is finally, after what feels like 10 years of talking about the guy, he's finally coming into it, and he's going to be in like 20, 25 goals. I don't know. It'll be very interesting to see what Nick Robertson's ceiling is this season. Only good things so far, though.
I think his ceiling is as high as his body's gonna hold up. If he's healthy, like that'll be a real test for him. Like more so even like the scoring or like power play or where he ends up. But like if he can stay healthy for more than half the season, that's a step forward.
Wasn't one of the injuries a broken leg?
It was very freak injury.
Are you still criticizing the man for breaking his leg? Like,
yes.
Am I injury prone for the rest of my life for breaking my leg? We got to give him a break at some point. I think Nicky Robb's going to be healthy this season. I think he is motivated. I mean, if anything, besides like a role in the Maple Leafs, he's financially motivated, right? Yep. Because he did not get the payday that he maybe thought he deserved. I don't think anybody on here thinks he totally deserved a big payday, but like if he goes out there and scores 30 goals this season,
wow.
Yeah.
Jeez,
I'd
if
love
he
to
scores
see
30
that.
goals this season, that's a pretty lofty expectation.
Didn't he have like 14 and 50 games last year?
As a career high, you think he's just going to double his career high this year?
Okay, well if he
Hey,
plays
we got like
every
Austin
game
Matthews
last
level
season,
performance in preseason.
yeah,
All
but
right,
if he
let's pump the brakes here. He's going to score like 20, and that's a good year for Nick Robertson. Like you don't need to pump it up to 30 goals for it to make it like. Let's be real here.
Save it for my man, the seg later. Okay, can we get into the lineup here? Unless you guys had something else you want to discuss. So, the Leafs roll out effectively what like we can expect our lines are going to be going into Game 1 for the preseason game tonight, minus a couple of injuries. And I kind of want to talk about some of these lines and maybe who we see coming in and out. Because while Nicky Robb is told he's made the Maple Leafs, like that was a discussion because of the logjam of males that we have in the bottom 6 of our forward group. So first line of Matthew Nyes, Austin Matthews, Captain Austin Matthews, and Mitch Marner. Second line of Max Domi, assistant captain John Tavares, and William Nylander. Third line of Bobby McMahon, Pontus Holmberg, Max Pacioretty. Fourth line of Steven Lorentz, David Kampf, and Ryan Reeves. That's our forward group. Now it's missing Nicky Robb, obviously. It's missing Callie Yarncrook and Connor Dewar.
Yep.
So how do you see this playing out, considering what Tim was talking about with the salary cap and what is going on? We've got Max Pacioretty in on a PTO. we've.
I think it's basically set that Pacioretty is going to sign like a 1-year deal. I forget if they've officially announced it or not, but like that's happening. So he'll be on the team.
Well, he'll get a contract at least. They might have an extra
I mean,
forward or extra defense, like.
But they're not going to sign him and then waive him. So he's going to be on the team.
No, but they're gonna have more than 12 forwards signed. That's what I'm saying. Like, just because he's signed doesn't mean that he's in the opening night playing 82 games. Like,
I mean, well, it'll depend. Like, depending on what moves they make, they might have to carry like the bare minimum. Like we've seen the Leafs do that before. Like have no extra forwards, one extra defense.
Players wise, like, do you see Max Pacioretty drawing out of this lineup, and how is Nicky Robb and how is Calle Yarncrook going to be on this team? Calle Yarncrook may be a fourth line guy, but like Nicky Robb's not going to be sitting on the fourth line, I don't think. Not with David Kampf and Ryan Reeves.
the problem is that you're not really making the best lineup because you have to have stick in the muds in the lineup because they're going to be there. There's no such thing as the ultimate Toronto Maple Leafs lineup when Ryan Reeves is on the fourth line, because that fourth line will always just be a useless fourth line. So you're already going to have two players on your team who are just not really doing anything. One of them is going to be David Kampf, who's a defensive player playing with a non-defensive player in Ryan Reeves. So the third player on that line, they're either going to be offensive but not playing with anyone who can help them, or defensive but they're not going to be trusted in bad situations because Ryan Reeves is on the line. So the fourth line is just like a write-off already, so who cares about that? After that, like that third line, I don't like any of these third lines that we trot out here if it doesn't have John Tavares as the center. And I think that at the end of the day, that just shows that we have a lack of center depth right now, which is why they were trying William Nylander and what they were doing for the failed experiment that it was. But it's just like, to me, I see that we have like two first lines, maybe like a 1A and 1B, and two fourth lines of 4A and 4B. And that's what our team is. That's what our team's always been, really, for the past bunch of years. But I think that we're going to ride or die on our top two lines. And I don't really see any difference makers on that third and fourth line that's going to be driving the needle here.
It's really interesting that they... I don't know, that we're looking at Pontus Holmberg and David Kampf again on the fourth line. I mean, that's what they rolled out in the playoffs for a lot of games. Part of that was because of like injuries, right, to Matthews and Nylander and stuff. But like, it is wild that like they didn't look at some of these other guys who have chemistry, like Domi and Marner, right, and trying out like what they might look like. Like, it's kind of interesting thinking that like we have a similar-ish roster, we have a brand new coach, and he's rolling out the same lines that the lead, like he has no other thoughts or other interesting,
Well, that's the criticism of the offseason, that we yes, we bolstered our blue line. We brought in 3 new players on the blue line, but we didn't bring in any forwards. None. Like, not even like better wingers or new depth pieces. Like, all these guys were here last year, so all the same problems that we had last year, we just have again. Like, it's not we didn't fix any problems, so it's just the same. And we were short centered last year. We're short centers now. We were short scoring depth last year. We're going to be short scoring depth now. Like, and maybe the defense we brought in will help with that. Like, we brought in some good puck moving defensemen like OEL, but it's kind of a moot point when you're running back the exact same forward crew. Limited internal growth. Like, you only have a few young guys like Bobby McMahon and Nyes and Robertson, like maybe something from them, but like the guys who are moving the needle, they're not like getting better. They were in their prime last year, they're in their prime now.
I don't know, guys. I think this might be the end of Ryan Reeves. Maybe not the end of Ryan Reeves. I think they try and
he's dying, Tim.
He's fine. He'll survive. But like, looking at the quality of names and like how long they are, it's like I think that like, because not only is there Pacioretty, there's also the is it Lawrence?
Yeah.
I think he gets a contract, and I think they're going to trade David Kampf. And even then, I think Reeves is gone. I think that's how they're going to try and make it work.
Listen, Tim, I'm 100% on board with Ryan Reeves being gone. But what do you mean they're going to trade David Kampf? I just went on the spiel of how we have no centers, and you want to trade one of them away?
I think so. You guys are like Willie spends a preseason game on the wing, and you guys are, the experiment is over, even though like 3 days ago they're saying it's going to be a longer experiment. I think this is just preseason. I think starting in the regular season, we'll see Nylander back at center. We'll see Tavares on the third line. Either Holmberg or we'll see what they end up doing salary cap wise, whether it's Dewar at center or Holmberg. But I think they make room by trading David Kampf. Maybe that does have room for Reeves on the team in the press box, but I think this is the end of David Kampf.
Why Kampf over like a Timmins? Like why?
Well, we're also going to be waiving Timmins, I think. But like Kampf makes $2.4 million, and he's a ceiling of a fourth line center.
But you could put guys like Dewar and Hakanpää and LTIR, and like we're not that over. Like you put those guys on LTIR, you waive Timmins, and you're there. You don't need to trade Kampf. Like you're just taking a weakness of ours, which is center depth. And yes, I agree. Like when we signed David Kampf to that contract, he was coming off of some really great seasons, and we're like, yes, like this will be fine. And then he took like a big step back, and now he's just a clear fourth liner, and that's a bad contract. It's no good. But like if you trade him out, you better bring a center back in. Like there's no way that you're gonna keep going with just like have Holmberg as the third line center. And
no, yeah, I think they run Tavares at third line, and then so the issue is you're going to have no one to take the penalty kill face-offs. Like Holmberg and Dewar aren't better than Kampf at the face-offs, but like I don't know. I think having a $2.4 million fourth line center is not something a contending team can afford.
Well, do you remember last year we were in the same position, and we traded what's his name to Vancouver? Laffer. I just remember Laffy because we called him Laffy on the pod. Sam Lafferty. We traded Sam Lafferty to Vancouver so that we could keep the bum Ryan Reeves, and Lafferty had a great season with Vancouver. And this is like, well, great. Now we gotta stick with the face puncher who can only play 50 games and barely at that, and it's like he's older now. I don't think I've ever hated a contract on the Maple Leafs as much as the Ryan Reeves one. Maybe David Clarkson. That's a stretch.
Okay, let's get into the back end here. All right. So we're missing Jake McCabe. We're missing Timothy Liljegren right now due to injuries. How do you guys see the D pairings slotting for game one, or what do you think is the smartest move considering these new guys that we have?
I think the only one that's in stone is like Riley Tanev. Like that combo is like 10 years of William Nylander trade rumors in the making. Yeah. After that though, it's like I couldn't even tell you who's going to be who's playing right or left or anything.
Well, I mean, like you brought up a couple of injuries. Like you're right, McCabe and Liljegren did not play tonight because they were dealing with something, but I think that they're expected to play in game one. Like those are not long-term injuries. The only one that we have is that we're expected to miss a little bit of time at the start of the season to Hakanpää, who I think is like he still hasn't even partaken in a full practice yet. So I think all those other guys are on the table here. So where are we going to go there, Steven?
Well, it's basically that. Yeah. Like Riley Tanev is locked in. You'd imagine that Benoit and McCabe has a decent shot of continuing just because they had so much success last year. Normally, I'd think, it's a new coach. Maybe he's going to try a different flavor, but he obviously doesn't seem to care about any of that. It's almost just like the auto lines that NHL video game would set for you. But considering like what OEL does might pair well with what Benoit or McCabe could do on the right. So that part of it's kind of interesting. I don't know if I guess we need to spend 10 minutes on this because like Tim said, we really have zero idea. But I'm excited for either one of these like kind of options.
It is
here.
nice. It is nice having options of these guys. Like it feels, we've had a few different guys come in and out of the decor, but I feel like there's quite a bit of potential of playing with. It will be interesting. Berube, like we've had Keefe as a coach for the last while, and before him Mike Babcock, but is Craig Berube the guy that's gonna like tinker with the lines every like 20 minutes, every different period, every single game of the season, or is he gonna give them a bit of a runway to try and build up chemistry, or is it'll be interesting.
Well, I was thinking about that actually, Tim. Like thinking back to our last coach before Sheldon Keefe, our dear friend Michael Babcock, and how we would be pulling our hairs out because he was like stuck with the same lines and the same defense pairings and the same goalie he trusted, and he'd just do that for like 82 games straight with no changes. And we're sitting here saying like, play Matthews and Marner, like it's not working. Matthews and Nylander, and like he for years just would refuse to try it. And then Sheldon Keefe comes in, and it felt like you're right. It's not even every game is changing. Like from period to period, we're like flying guys in from Europe to just join the game. Like it was just
what
crazy
were the
to
lines
change.
even?
You could not.
What
keep
is
up.
a line at that point?
It will be interesting to see the direction that Craig Berube goes. Like we've become so accustomed to Sheldon Keefe and just like used to it. Just the line goes in a blender for third period if the Leafs are losing, and it just all switches up. And like maybe Tim, I know you put nothing into the preseason, but maybe like Nylander already moving off of the C and going back to the wing after like 2 preseason games. Like maybe that's an indication that he'll be a little bit more flexible. But I feel like we won't get a real notion of that until the season starts. I think in terms of the defense, the two that are most interesting are Liljegren and Oliver Ekman-Larsson. For different reasons. Liljegren is I feel like of everyone on all of the Leafs, the one that I'm most concerned about will fit into the Craig Berube and the Brad Treliving fingerprints that they're putting on this team. Like he just doesn't feel like he fits the mold of everyone else that they tried to bring in. But he also feels like importantly, he's our youngest defenseman by like a mile here, like other than our young prospects, I guess. So like I feel like he needs to have a future. If we get rid of him, then like, man, we are an old decor, which is concerning. So I don't know about that. And then Ekman-Larsson, like, I hope he could play on the second pair because we paid a lot of money for him and he's here for a long time. And this is year 1 of a contract that will bring him until he's quite old. So I hope he could play on the second pair, but like I'm worried he's going to be on the third pair. So those guys are a little bit of question marks to me.
My official prediction is Riley Tanev, McCabe Benoit, and then Oliver Ekman-Larsson and Timothy Liljegren on the third pair as like a Swedish father and son kind of situation where Liljegren's just looking up at OEL, kind of like a
Father.
He's
Father,
not
I
even
see
that much
you.
older than Liljegren. He's actually like 5 years older.
I also don't even
5
know if
years
he's
is a lot.
He's not 5 years older than Liljegren. He's probably like 10 years older than Liljegren.
No, isn't Liljegren like 27 and OEL's like 32?
Right?
Liljegren 25, Ekman-Larsson 33.
All
Woo!
8 years, whatever.
That's a substantial gap.
I actually love your lines, Steven. That's exactly the lines that I would trot out if I were in charge of things. So maybe that's an indication that they're bad lines, actually. I'm not smart enough to make
Ryan,
those decisions.
do you respect anyone 8 years younger than you? Yes or no?
8 years younger? No.
Tim,
Nope.
yes or no?
Ryan, how old are you again?
How old
Okay.
am I in
The
relation
one
to you
thing
guys?
about those lines is like we all know like Sheldon Keefe hated having to shelter a line. His thing was like every line has to be fully dependable.
Mm-hmm.
I look at that Oliver Ekman-Larsson line and Liljegren and I say like that is going to be a sheltered third
That's
pair.
the third pair. Like,
No,
if you're worried about your third pair, you're in trouble. To me, it's either that or it's going to be Hakanpää coming in for Liljegren. Like, but I think that we all loved Benoit McCabe last year. Like, they were so good together. Like, they were more than the sum of their parts. And it just feels, I don't even think we tried that in the preseason yet.
Oh.
So I don't know.
Benoit's my man for sure. Like,
Spoilers.
no, settle down. Good chat about the lineup. Good chat about a couple of bodies on the team. And I want to get into a couple of questions about the Maple Leafs for this season. Each of us have prepared an answer. Maybe this elicits some discussion, but I'm curious your guys' thoughts. So here's the two questions. What are you the most confident in the Leafs for this season? And what has you the most nervous about the Leafs this season? Ooh, kind of spooky. Let's start, though, with confidence. It's all about confidence, baby.
It's all about confidence.
Take it, Steven. What do you got?
Okay, jeez. I am the most confident in the Leafs this season that this may seem like low-hanging fruit. Austin Matthews is going to have an excellent season again. I'm very convinced of this. I feel like I've been a little bit pessimistic on a lot of previous preseason pods here where I look at the Leafs and maybe whatever changes they made in the offseason and look like, gosh, if Austin Matthews isn't just Thanos this season, we're screwed, man. You know, I feel like I've said that 10 times on this pod before, and I'm done letting myself live in this pessimism of questioning whether the essential Maple Leafs GOAT is going to be the GOAT again this season. He looked incredible tonight. He's got the C. He believes he can be or is the best player in the world. And there's nothing stopping him from taking that title. And the man almost scored 70 goals last season. He's just continued getting better. And so that's the thing I'm most confident about the Maple Leafs this season. You know, he carried us for a lot of games last season. I think we were second or third in the NHL in goals scored per game. And I even though we look at like some of this bottom six and get a little nervous, Austin Matthews is going to be able to do his part, and we know that he's going to be cooking this season. So, I hate that sounds like low-hanging fruit. I wish you guys had gone first, but like, that's my answer.
It does sound like low-hanging fruit, but that doesn't mean it's wrong. Like, it's the right thing to say that. Like, the number one reason why any Leafs fan should be excited for the Maple Leafs this year, it like starts and ends with Austin Matthews. Like, that is the obvious number one pick because he's just so good. And he's so much of what our team is. There's a reason why he has the C. It's because he's the second or third best player in the entire league right now.
The low-hanging fruit that's right next to Matthews, and is the reason why I'm so certain that Matthews going to have a good year. This is Mitch Marner in a contract year. The ceiling is blown through. We're talking 100-plus points by Black Friday. No.
Is that your thing, Tim?
Oh yeah. I mean, there was a few things that I'm kind of confident in. Mostly that we'll have tiers probably at some point during the podcast this year. But for the Maple Leafs, probably that Mitch Marner is going to have a career year, to the detriment of any hopes that we had at signing him at a discount.
Steven, I hope you're taking notes because this is a podcast where we disagree with brothers. That's basically the point of this. If I were to, I might actually just change my most nervous now to have it be that, but I think I'll stick with what I got, Tim. But Mitch Marner was absolutely not on my most confident list. He wasn't even like a consideration to be on that list. And the reason why is because I couldn't care less how many points he has in the regular season. All I care about this year is what they do in the playoffs. And if there's one player on the Toronto Maple Leafs who I know will absolutely disappoint me in the playoffs, the list is Mitch Marner. Like, he will not deliver because he never delivers in the playoffs. I don't care if it's a contract year because halfway through the year when he gets 100 points, we'll give him his $15 million contract and then he'll suck in the playoffs. So, no, Mitch Marner is not the reason I'm most confident for this team at all.
What is your thing then, Rye?
I mean, it's a lot. I wish I just pick. Can I just pick William Nylander? Like, I don't know. Maybe I'll just pick the easy fruit here. No, I wrote special teams for me, and I said it in the sense like I was more thinking along the lines of why we
for most confident.
Yeah, because I was thinking along the lines of what we did, more or less like what went poorly in the playoffs last year. And I actually watched the first episode of that face-off thing with Nylander and Pasternak. Did you guys watch that yet?
Not yet.
It is
PTSD.
like tonight,
I can't.
It is honestly disappointing. I'll tell everyone watching it. I think that I was expecting something like the All or Nothing series, which to me was like, if you're a fan of hockey, that's like must watch. Like it gives you such a behind the scenes and appreciation for the meetings and everything. This was no different than those little like Leaf blueprint things that they do. It's just some like interviews. There's really nothing about anything. Like, it's just a little more or less like a look at Nylander's dogs and Pasternak's baby, and like that was basically what it was all about. So you can skip it, Tim. It's a lot about the playoffs and a lot of tears there. So, but no, I was watching that, and it does a lot about the playoffs, and so it kind of got me thinking again about what sucked. And I think we're at like a 2% power play rate in the playoffs, which, like, there's no way it could be that bad again. We got a new guy behind the bench taking control of the power play. I remember last year Tavares was just, like, nothing on the power play. He got, like, no goals. And he's been a bread and butter guy on the power play for his entire career. So you have to think that he's going to take a step back in the right direction there. Now we have Oliver Ekman-Larsson, who I think will probably get some time on that PP1, which will give a different look than Morgan Riley. So I think the power play, it's looked very similar for the past a lot of years in a row now, and I think it will look different this year, which makes me optimistic. And then you flip down the penalty kill. Do you guys know who the two defensemen penalty killers we had game 1 of the regular season last year? Giordano and TJ Brody. Those guys aren't even like in the NHL anymore, and if they are, they shouldn't be, because they were not NHL caliber defensemen last year. And this year we're gonna have like Jake McCabe and
Tanev.
And Chris Tanev. Like Tanev especially is like gonna be a penalty killing king for us. So I think that alone, and goaltending. Last year we had a lot of problems with the goaltending. This year I think between Wall and Stolarz, it's going to be better. So I think both of our special teams, looking in the playoffs, but in general, will be better than last year, and I think that'll go a long way.
Well, maybe that's a good transition for what I'm most worried about.
Wait, I gotta do what I'm excited about.
Oh, go ahead.
So, okay, a problem that I've had with the Leafs for years is the fact that we just have never really been great defensively, and this year I think we're I'm not gonna say stacked, but like I'm a lot less concerned about goals going in because of a defenseman. Like I think this year, like with Morgan Riley, Chris Tanev, like that's a solid lineup, and just our defensemen in general. Like I think it's just a clean back of the ice.
We probably haven't given Chris Tanev enough love this pod. I don't know if we've talked about him enough this playoffs, but I mean it can't be understated that he is the best defensive partner that Morgan Riley has had, and Morgan Riley's the longest-serving Maple Leaf that we have on the team by like 2 or 3 seasons. The number of good teams you think of in the league that really ride 2 defensemen and have a lot of success with that, I mean, maybe we can have that. All right, what's got you sweating buckets about the season here?
It's the special teams. Like we've talked every year how like, oh, maybe the special teams be better then. For 5 years in a row, always worse, and it's like, and it's always kills us. Like every year in the playoffs, it's like, oh, if only we gotten like 1 or 2 more goals, if only we had one more successful penalty kill. And it's like, yes, Ryan, you had valid points. Tanev should improve our penalty kill. I have no idea what can be done on the power play. Like, you'd think a monkey could coach these guys to, like, actually score on the power play. You have, like, 5 incredibly gifted offensive scorers, but it hasn't worked in 5 years. Maybe longer.
Like, what? Like, I feel like I brought some legitimate evidence as to why I thought that the power play should be better this year, and you were just like, I don't care, it'll be worse.
Well, I'll be honest, if I may, I am siding a little bit more on the Tim side. I mean, yeah, we got a new coach. It's the same guys on this power play, and I'm leaning a little bit more with Tim here on the nervous scale. I'm not saying like I'm not confident that like maybe these guys can turn it around, but like I don't see any facts to state that I think it's going to be significantly better or significantly worse. I do think a monkey is coaching the group, and I think they're just free ball in whatever they're going to do. Like I watched the preseason, drop passes all around. They had a nice goal tonight, but it's got me a little bit more nervous than I am confident, I guess.
I'll believe it when I see it.
Penalty kill's different.
Mark my words, power play will be better this year in the playoffs at least. I think we actually had a really good power play in the regular season.
Is this the
But
playoff
does anyone
preview?
care about the regular
Yeah,
season?
we're not talking about the playoffs yet. We haven't even gotten.
Does anyone care about
matters.
the regular season? Clip that for the intro to the preseason podcast here. Does anybody care? Ryan will be sitting it out. Tune into Ryan's takes here in April. Can I go?
Yep.
What has me sweating buckets about the season here is, does the Craig Berube effect actually make a noticeable difference on this team? That is the thing. We changed essentially nothing else about this team but the coach. Okay, we brought in some defensemen, but like it's the coach, right? And they made a change because they're expecting a change out of the team, and I'm really curious to see, can you tell a difference That's pretty much it. I mean, Berube was brought in not to be necessarily like this, earth-changing statistical mastermind nerd type. Like he's an alpha male dog that's going to lead men. And do we see that effect? I guess it's maybe a bit more of a playoffy kind of thing than the regular season, because I suppose maybe a monkey could coach this Maple Leafs team to the playoffs every year, but that's the thing, because it's just like if Berube doesn't make a difference, then what are we doing?
It's tough because like you look at Sheldon Keefe, who's the guy who just had as a head coach right before Berube, and he's like the most winningest coach in Maple Leafs history in the regular season in terms of like win percentage for the time that he spent here. So like it's hard to argue like if the regular season's going on and the Leafs are not meeting that winning percentage that Sheldon Keefe was achieving, then like that's not a knock on Berube, because it's a very impressive record. Really, I think that, and I mean, he's gonna clip me on this too, but like what Berube does in the regular season, it doesn't matter compared to the playoffs, in the sense that we've been complaining about Sheldon Keefe because for a really probably until this most recent year, a lot of us liked Sheldon Keefe, especially in those first number of years after he replaced Babcock. Like he did a lot of really good things and made a lot of really good changes, and we're looking at it saying like this is a really good coach. But even from in all 5 years he was our coach, from 1 to 5, he was out coached in the playoffs every single time. We would leave it and just say like, well, like he just was the worst of the two, and you can say the same thing about our goaltending and about a lot of other things, but like he just was never the better. And it's almost like the same thing I was talking about our goaltending. It's just like there's almost a stink about the playoffs here, and I'm just excited to see someone new take over, and maybe it'll be switch the coach, same result, but until you do it, you don't know. So I think that I'll reserve my judgment on even if he has a great or a horrible regular season, unless it's so horrible he doesn't make the playoffs. But we'll see what happens come playoff time, and see what this team looks like under a different regime. All right, I'll say mine. Mine is it's center depth, and I know I talked about it a little bit already, but even though Tim, you have a little bit of confidence that they're going to go back to Willie at center, that like even if they are going hard and give it all the attention they need, it's like a long shot at best. Like the guy's not a center. Steven, I was actually thinking about the point you made last pod that like, what other player who's like had so much success at his position and has now signed 2 huge contracts all of a sudden switches and plays a new position? It just doesn't happen like ever. I can't even tell you the last guy who did something like that. So,
I mean, it's common for centers to switch to wingers.
Switch to an easier position. Like it's not common to go the other way around. So like Willie at center is a stretch at best. Tavares as like a legitimate number 2 center, he could probably do it, but like probably better suited down the lineup. Then after that, we just have a whole bunch of maybes. Like Domi's a maybe, Holmberg's a maybe. Like we got like a bunch of other guys who like could do it, but not do it well. And like as soon as you get one injury to Matthews or to Tavares or to like any of these guys, it's just your options become incredibly limited. I suspect this is where we're going to target come trade deadline, is to bring in either a 3C or even a 2C, depending on how many chips we want to push in here. But to me, that's where our weaknesses lie. I mean, well, there's other places, but that's where I'll put my energy forward for this segment.
I know it's a pessimistic way to get into the regular season, but all these subjects here have validity, right? This is our lived experience. Dave, you got anything you're sweating buckets about?
I mean, I'm not necessarily super confident about our goaltending overall. Like, we've got good defensemen that are going to be able to help out our goalie, but if we don't have, I mean, if our goaltenders aren't really bringing it, then how are we really going to do? Like,
rank your confidence on this is to everybody on like your confidence that these groups will be good between your forwards, goalies, and defensemen. Which one do you think is like 1, 2, and 3 out of that group?
I mean, I'm ranking defensemen 1, forwards 2, goalies 3.
I would definitely rate forwards 1. Like, your forwards are still Matthews,
Yeah,
Marner,
I mean,
Nylander,
yeah.
Tavares.
I'm
Like,
probably forwards 1 as well.
Yeah. After that, like, the goalies are so hard to rank. I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of the season, goalies are 1. And I'd be equally as unsurprised if goalies were 3. Like,
Yeah.
you have no idea what you're getting, which, like, to your point, David, that's, like, you could sweat about that, but you could also have a lot of optimism for that. Like, we're not putting a lot of cap space towards our goalies. And if I'm talking about players who I think could outperform their contract, both of our goalies, I think, could fall into that category. So,
Tim, are they 3 for you?
The thing about goalies is, like, if they're healthy, they're probably not at the bottom. But, like, with the health concerns, and maybe it's just because, like, I think everyone that's had a broken leg is injury prone, but it makes such a difference.
Steven, are you injury prone?
Tim, did you ever break a bone? Come on.
These goalies, they say, like, they never played a full year before, so
Yeah.
it's like it definitely makes me a little nervous. I think the forwards, you guys put them at, like, number 1 just on Matthews alone, but I mean, the past few years in the playoffs, we've been eliminated not because of the defense or the goalies. We've scored, like, 2 goals in 4 games. So it's like, I don't know if they get the unanimous number 1 confidence.
Yeah, hold on, though. It's you can't just, like, sum it up to we've scored 2 goals in 3 games and say that it's the forwards' fault. Like, if the defense are getting caved in the right end, so the forwards have to come back and play defense, then it's kind of hard to score goals on the other side. So,
Listen,
like,
if you have Austin Matthews on your team and your team only scores 2 goals in 3 games, they are not getting off the hook
Austin
of that.
Matthews only played like 4 of the games, and Nylander only played 3 of them, and he scored 2 goals in 3 games. I watched the show, Tim. I remember these things.
I've wiped all memory of that, or if I tried at least, but
I have also wiped a lot of memory. Okay, can we get into a discussion about my man?
All right.
I want to tell you guys about
I'm sorry, my man, the way Denzel Washington.
Well, let the record show the witness means my man.
Who's your
my
man? My man.
This is a new segment for this season. My man. Who is my man? My man is someone who, on the Maple Leafs this season, you feel is set up for a career year. Okay? This has to be a player who is outside of the core 5. So that's Matthews, Marner, Tavares, Morgan Riley, and not a rookie. Okay? And we are going.
Matthew Nyes is not a rookie anymore.
Matthew Nyes is not a rookie anymore. And this is going by just has he played a regular season game for the Maple Leafs, not the weird NHL rookie rules that made Michael Bunting be a rookie despite playing like 40 games or whatever. Tim, who is going to be your man this season? Or my man?
all right. I think the player who's going to surprise us the most, and this is, I wasn't anticipating picking first, but I said, like, you know what? This guy's going to do it.
Tim just assumes that
Tim
like
was
I'm
ready.
going to screw him over and he's picking 5th or something.
Max Pacioretty has a new body. He's had a few freak injuries the past few years.
This guy's not
Steven's
even on our team right now. He
blown
has
away.
no contract.
Hey.
He's Tim's man.
Hey, Tim's confident.
You have
He's
no
got
expectations
confidence,
for the
baby.
guy. He's gonna come out. He's gonna give us the Jason Spezza treatment, and he's gonna be great.
Wait a minute. Wait. You think Max Pacioretty is going to have a career year on the Maple Leafs this season?
Oh, okay. He's not gonna score 50 goals,
Well,
but
but
he's definitely gonna exceed the
Okay.
expectations way more than
Max Pacioretty is your man this year.
Absolutely.
That's a good pick. It's a good pick because it's the kind of guy that, like, if he can get past his, that's the reason why no teams picked him up, because it's kind of an unknown with the injuries. But, like, if he can rekindle a little bit of like the kind of thing that Jason Spezza did for us so well, like, real solid bottom of the lineup kind of player.
I was close to picking a defenseman, but then I know it's like, every time that defenseman gets walked on a play, I'm gonna hear about it the next pod. So better take a forward.
I can't believe, like Tim, it's entirely possible that he gets cut, gets sent down, and is playing for Utah in a month, and he's still your man if he's
surprised
playing on Utah.
I'm surprised Tim didn't pick Topi Nutella, so I don't know.
Ryan hates this guy. We're going to have him as a guest on the pod. Okay, lock it in, David. Lock in the answer. Max Pacioretty. Can I talk about my man?
Who's your man?
I can't believe Tim took Max Pacioretty first overall.
You were gonna pick Max?
No, no. That's like saying that Phantom Menace is the best Star Wars movie. Or like you can pick one Star Wars movie, pick Phantom Menace. Bobby McMahon is my man this season. Bobby
He's
McMahon
got man in the name.
That actually wasn't planned. I only wrote down Bobby Mack in my notes, forgetting that the second part of his last name is Man. 2 N's on that, by the way. So my man with 2 N's. Bobby McMahon, 24 points. He's currently slotted on the second or third line wing. I could totally see him moving up and playing with John Tavares, whether it's on the second or third line. I could see him with John Tavares. They had great chemistry. He had 24 points last season in I think what is essentially his rookie year, even though he's like 28 or something like that. And I just love Bobby McMahon's energy. I love how he's willing to score goals all by himself. And I think he's going to surpass 24 points easily. And that's the kind of man that I want with me this season.
As your man?
Well,
that's my man.
It's nice, Steven, that you picked someone with an NHL contract. Like, that's a nice step in the right direction.
Well, in Tim's defense, I didn't say that they had to be signed to the Maple Leafs to be your man.
He's catching him on a technicality.
That is good, though. It will be interesting to see where he slots in. I feel like where he slots in, it depends on, like, he'll just play on whichever line is with John Tavares. I feel like is where he'll get his, like, if he's going to be your man and have his career year, it's because he's playing on a wing with John Tavares. And either that's because Tavares is the 3C or because Domi is the 3C and McMahon moves up to the second line wing to play with Tavares. Like, those are the two options that I can see him really thriving in. Unfortunately, if he is on a third line with, like, Holmberg and Yarncrook, I don't think he's doing too much on that line. So he's kind of a slave to our lack of center depth, which was an excellent thing to be sweating buckets about, if I do say so myself.
It's actually, I disagree that I think you could put him on a line with a couple of eggshells and he's going to figure out ways to score goals by himself. I think that's how highly I think of Bobby McMahon. Don't snarl at me. That's my man that you're snarling about.
Oh, we've seen
Don't get on his
when
man.
He's on the Captain Tavares as a center, and now he's going to be with assistant Captain Tavares or eggshells. So
I'm
we'll
not
see how he is.
getting the sense that I stole Ryan's
No,
possible
not at all.
selection.
Not a chance.
No, Tim didn't steal Ryan's selection. I am very curious who Ryan chose for my man. But I'm not talking about my man. I'm talking about my man the way that Denzel Washington says it.
I am picking Jake McCabe as my man. I think that if there's
All right.
one man who does fit the mold of what our new coach and our GM are building here, I just imagine, remember last year Jake McCabe had a bloody face for like 72 of the 82
Oh,
games.
yeah.
Like, he
That's
was
so intense.
He was so mean when he had that bloody face. He was just hitting hard and standing guys up and boxing guys out. And I think that I could just see him taking a step here and just having a big role here. Whether he's with Benoit, whether he's with OEL, he's just going to be a mainstay. We're going to love him being big. He's going to play the kind of hockey Craig Berube wants him to play. He's going to be nasty, and I think we're going to love him. We're going to love him for it. So that's my man.
My man.
So I do believe that segues over to me for my man. Just based on preseason results alone, I got to go with Nicky Robb. Like, Nicky
He's a
Robb
believer.
was I'm a believer. Like, I think this dude's just absolutely bringing it. The way that he was just like, he was deking around, just, getting sly goals. I think this man is about to have a career season with the Leafs. He's going to be
Wow.
a champion.
I don't disagree that he's going to have a career season with the Leafs. I think me, Dave, and Ryan all picked players who are going to have a career seasons with the Leafs. Really curious to see where Max Pacioretty is playing in 70,
Matt
78
Pacioretty,
hours.
he's going somewhere. He's going somewhere else. We'll throw him to Utah.
That's a good
We'll
pick.
find out.
I think he had Nicky Robb had 27 points, which was probably last season. That's his career high. So I said earlier on the pod I think he could score 30. So we'll see.
He won't score 30. He'll have a career high if he stays healthy. Like that's his biggest.
Yeah. Okay. So what's his injury percentage here? How
According to
frequently
Tim,
is he?
he's already passed
He's
away.
more likely to miss the entire season due to injury than to score 30 goals. Give me a break, Steven.
I want to dial it up. David, do you have a sound for the quick hitters?
All right.
He knows.
We got some quick hitters. Bring it.
Here we go. All right. Will the Leafs keep Calle Yarncrook all season? Yes or no?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I see
right.
that.
He's good. Of course they want to keep him.
I don't think so.
We just doomed his fate. He's being traded before the weekend's over.
Who will score the first goal of the Maple Leaf season?
Ryan Reeves.
Don't make me say David Camp.
Not a chance.
I'm gonna say David's man, Nicky Robb.
I'm gonna go for the man who's the only Toronto Maple Leafs jersey I own, Mitch Marner.
I'm going to say William Nylander.
It's a good pick.
That's my pick. Yeah, I'm going to say William Nylander. Okay. The Leafs finished third in the standings last year. Will it be higher or lower this season?
Higher.
Second in the standings is where we'll
I'm gonna
finish.
say higher, but if you gave me the choice to have the same rating, I'd probably pick the same.
You think third
We're always
against him?
third.
Who do you think's finishing ahead of them?
Probably Detroit.
Okay. With their 4 goalies?
Boston will be ahead of us.
That's what's
and
gonna make it.
Boston
Four
don't
goalies.
have a goaltender.
They don't have a goalie.
There's your quick hitter. Does Squaven sign before November 1st?
Okay.
Wales, probably.
Are you happy with your my man selection?
Very.
What kind of question is that? Of course, I just made it.
I love
What do you
this
think?
man.
That was kind of me banking to like maybe somebody would steal somebody else's pick.
We did harp hard on Tim's pick there. I don't know, Tim.
Yeah, Tim, how confident are you in your my man pick?
I mean, less now that you guys have been roasting him so much. But like, I am excited. I'm now more invested in seeing Pacioretty play than I was 10 minutes ago. I think the Leafs do have like quite a few good players that are like will be interesting to see. Like Domi, like he caught fire in the second half of last year. Does he settle in? Does he pick up where he left off? Chris Tanev, like he was a beast last playoffs. Like, can he bring that form, or is he all washed up? And anyways, looking forward to it.
Play the music. I'm pumped, man. We got hockey this week.
It's hockey this week.
Wednesday night. I can't wait.
Am I doing anything Wednesday night? I know what I'm doing. I'm watching the Leafs Wednesday night.
In Montreal.